The girl you have in your mind is something you created in your imagination. In reality, the girl you knew has forgotten you. She doesn't feel anything for you. Time has made her a completely different person. You live in a bubble of the past. This isn't heartbreak. This is psychology. This is memory. And this is how your mind lies to protect itself. You don't remember the past, you recreate it. Remembering someone, especially someone you love deeply, feels real, almost photographic. You might swear that you remember how her laugh sounded, how she made you feel, or how her eyes looked when she was about to cry. But here's the truth. Memory doesn't work like a hard drive. It works like clay, soft, malleable, and reshapes every time you touch it. According to pioneering cognitive psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, our memories are reconstructive. That means each time we recall something, the brain rewrites parts of itself, based on our current mood, expectations, and unconscious bias. In her research, Loftus demonstrated that people could be made to remember entire false events like being lost in the mall as a child or meeting a different character under a different IP at Disneyland. In multiple studies, up to 25 to 50% of participants developed vivid, detailed memories of events that never actually happened, just by suggestion. Now apply that to heartbreak. Every time you lie in bed and remember that one day where it rained and you held her close, every time you replay that one last smile, you're not watching a replay, you're watching a remake, filtered by grief, nostalgia, and loneliness. Your brain needs to survive the pain of losing her, and the only way it really survives is remembering the version of her you created in your subconsciousness. Your brain doesn't just rewrite memories, it cherry picks them. We're wired to focus on emotionally intense moments, especially those involving reward, connection, or threat. In love, this often leads to what psychologists call the rosy retrospection bias, the tendency to view the past more positively than what it was. In one longitudinal study, it found that over 60% of people idealized their previous romantic relationship within 6 months of a breakup, remembering them as more loving, more exciting, and less conflict-ridden than what they were. In other words, your brain keeps a montage, not a documentary. It cuts the fights, edits out the emotional distance, blurs her apathy, and leaves you with distorted fairy tales. You'll remember the music in her car when you smoked cigarettes, the inside jokes, that one time she kissed you in public, but not the awkward silence, the emotional withdrawals, or the late night texts that you would send her, but she wouldn't send back. This is especially dangerous after breakups without closure, where the story was never finished. The brain hates unresolved narratives, so it rewrites them. And love isn't just emotional. It's chemical. When you fall in love, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals that brands moments into the back of your mind. So, here's what happens. Dopamine activates your brain's reward system, creating euphoria and craving. It makes you associate pleasure with the person. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone, released during touch, not YouTube friendly, and emotional intimacy. It builds trust and attachment.
Norepinephrine
Heightens alertness and imprints emotional memories like a digital highlighter. In an fMRI brain scan of people newly in love, researchers found an intense activity in the ventral tegmental area, the brain's reward center. Now, fun fact, this is the same region of the brain that lights up in cocaine users. So when your brain gets that chemical mixed repeatedly from her smile, her voice, etc., it burns those memories into place. But after she's gone, your brain still craves those hits. You're not just remembering her. You're addicted to the feeling she gave you, and your brain is chasing that hit like a drug it can't find anymore. And your brain wants closure. It wants to make sense of the pain, so it keeps looping these scenes trying to find the moment where all went wrong. But that's the thing, it keeps you stuck. Researchers in emotional regulation and memory found that ruminating on past romantic memories leads to more intense and prolonged emotional distress and delays in healing. People who frequently ruminate on their ex reported 31% higher symptoms of depression, over 40% greater difficulty forming new attachments. The version of her you remember she might not exist anymore. In fact, she might never have existed at all. Not like that, not the way you think. You've built her in your mind, pixel by pixel, memory by memory, until she became a painting so perfect, no real person can compete. That's why new people feel empty. That's why the dating scene feels dull. You're comparing reality to fantasy that your brain created as a coping mechanism. And fantasy always wins, until you finally stop feeding them. People say time heals all wounds. But this is bull. Time passing is neutral. Your brain doesn't heal just because the calendar moves forward. It heals when the cognitive, the emotional, and the neurological system that were hijacked by love gets rewired, one layer at a time. A breakup isn't just emotional pain, it's neurological chaos. You lost a source of dopamine, a social routine, a role in someone's life, and more than anything, you've lost a mirror you were used to seeing yourself in. If you don't address those parts directly, no amount of distraction or gym sessions will fix anything long term. And most advice people give after a breakup is motivational filler. Focus on yourself means nothing unless you know what system you're trying to fix. So here's what research says. Studies affected in neuroscience show that love activates the same reward system in your brain as addictive substances. We talked about this. Where dopamine is produced. That's why people describe breakups as withdrawals, because it is. So when someone leaves, your brain doesn't just feel sad, it crashes. And like any crash, the first instinct is to chase that high again. You do that by replaying memories, romanticizing closure, and stalking them online. All of it is the same thing. The brain trying to re-engage and serve the reward loop. You can't fix the dopamine system with willpower. You fix it by retraining your reward system. This is where newer approaches like mindful-oriented recovery enhancement comes in. A technique developed by Dr. Eric Garland that teaches you to consciously shift your attention from craving to natural reward. In clinical trials, it's shown to not just reduce emotional distress, but to restore your ability to enjoy things without needing that person's presence to make them feel meaningful, which is a perfect pitch for Gamers Workshop to actually promote Warhammer 40k. But back on topic, this isn't really self-help type shit. This is your literal brain rehabilitating. But meanwhile, emotionally, your story is still looping. You're asking, why did she leave? What could I have done differently to keep her around? Does she think about me? You're not asking those questions because the answers exist. You're asking because the brain hates open loops. According to Dr. James Penbaker, I've been butchering a lot of things, please just bear with me with this recording. Basically, his research on expressive writing, the act of fully articulating an emotional event, no filters, no grammar, just raw stream of consciousness, helps the brain move from rumination to resolution. Participants who did this just for 4 days saw measurable drops in anxiety, cortisol levels, and depressive symptoms. So if you're still talking to her in your head, fine, write it down. Let it exist, but don't let it live in your body anymore. And let's talk about the story you're telling, because most people don't just grieve a breakup. They grieve the loss of identity they felt safe inside. Research from Slaughter and Finkel shows that breakups cause a measurable drop in self-concept clarity, meaning people lost a sense of who they are without their partner. You didn't just love her, you loved who you thought you were when she looked at you. Do you want to move on? Start rebuilding the self she reflected, but build it without needing her as a mirror this time. You don't need 20 productive hacks. You don't need to become the best version of yourself out of spite. What you need is a system level intervention, a way to process pain, rewire reward honestly, and reclaim your identity intentionally. No one teaches you how to do that. The hardest part of losing someone isn't the pain. It's realizing the pain doesn't mean what you think it means. You're not still hurting because she was your soulmate. You're hurting because the system in your head, the one built for bonding, meaning, and reward, got wired around her. It's biological, mechanical, and yet it feels like destiny. What feels sacred is often just what is repeated enough to become familiar, and what hurts the most is often just a signal that your brain hasn't caught up to reality yet. You keep asking, why can't I let it go? But maybe the better question is, what am I still hoping will come back? If it's her or him, this could be for anybody really, then be honest. Not with them, but with yourself. She's gone not out of malice, not even out of cruelty, but because life changes people, and you were part of a chapter she's no longer in. If it's the feeling of being seen, of being important, then maybe you don't need her to get that back. Maybe what you lost was a version of yourself you thought only existed through her eyes. Breakups aren't an ending, they're an audit. A moment where the fantasy and the facts finally separate. And if you're paying attention, if you're brave enough to face the silence without reaching for another illusion, you don't just move on, you wake up. And we made it to the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, please subscribe. If not, leave a comment why, and I'll read it. And, no judging, none of that, I promise. I won't make like a follow-up video replying to your harsh comments. I just saw this comment right here that you saw at the beginning of the video on Maybe in Another Life by I Wish You Were Here. To be honest, I really hate like sad shit. I really hate pick a card tarot card readings for when you're in a heartbreak and you're looking for like desperate. I mean, like that was me. That was literally me. Back in the day when I didn't know what love was. And however though, with science, I didn't actually learn this. I had to learn it through myself, and then like I started researching articles, and then when I saw this comment, I was like, oh, this would make a good YouTube video, a different change of pace, and that's the video that you're gonna get for mid-June. So, yep, I shall be back within a couple weeks or a month with another video. Till then, peace.